fundsupermart.com.
Good morning, Mr. Mahendra Jaju. What is your outlook on the interest rates, and when do you think the RBI will start adopting a easing monetary policy stance?
As we all know, for now Reserve Bank is on a hold mode, and it is quite likely that the interest rates will not go up from here. As to when the interest rates will come down will be a function of how some of the macro factors like inflation or the rupee behave. But if you look at the last 6 months, there has been one rate cut, and then RBI has been easing liquidity on an ongoing basis. Even as we speak, yesterday they announced an open market operation, and from the indications that we have from the policy statements, one can expect a rate cut in the first quarter of next year, which is the financial year 2013.
Given this uncertainty over the interest rate cuts, can investors start taking exposure to income funds now? Is this the right time?
For some time now, we have been recommending the short-term income fund and the dynamic bond funds, and that view remains unchanged. In regard to the interest rates, right now we are seeing a lot of uncertainty and a lot of volatility, because we have a number of offsetting factors right now in terms of why should interest rates go up or go down. For example, inflation is very sticky. We have a serious problem with the current account deficit, which then cascades into weaker currency, higher domestic liquidity deficit, higher fiscal deficit, and then the biggest of all issues is the large government bond supply. And then on the positive side, we obviously have the poor growth scenario, which needs to be addressed. We have a global interest rate environment which is extremely supportive for lower interest rates, and then we have an inflation situation which is very sticky. Now, what is important about inflation is not whether the inflation is so much high or low, but what is the trajectory of the inflation. So right now one is quite confident that inflation isn't going to blow up again. It's not going to go out of the comfort zone. So it's not coming down, but it's very sticky. So that is in a way giving some elbow room to the Reserve Bank. What I'm trying to say is that the environment is very uncertain and volatile, and what we have seen over the last 6 months is the same thing, that interest rates have been moving in a range. And one additional factor is that with the improved liquidity and quite a significant injection of liquidity by the Reserve Bank, the short-term rates have come down, so yield curve has become steeper again. So you cannot, because of the uncertainty and volatility right now, possibly go whole hog into a full duration product like income fund. At the same time, you can't expect to have very good returns by investing in a pure accrual product like a liquid fund. And which is why, on the balance, considering the overall macro environment, considering the expectations on where inflation or interest rates can go, we continue to favor the short-term income fund and the dynamic bond fund. And if you look at the last 6 months or 1 year, these are the two categories which have delivered the best returns for the investors.
What is your view on the twin deficits, and how do you see liquidity going ahead?
As far as the current account deficit is concerned, it is a function of two parts. One is our export-import balance, and then how seriously we feel about current account deficit is then a function of how good or bad are our capital flows. Just to give an example, last 6 months also we continue to see a very poor situation on the current account deficit, but we did not feel the pressure, and rupee actually appreciated from say a 57 level to below 50. That's because during that time we saw a revival in the FII flows. We got about 10 million plus during that time, and then there was positive momentum on the policy reform side, etc. So current account deficit per se is primarily driven by two components. One is the oil price, and the second is the gold. These are the two largest components of current account deficit. I don't see how we can meaningfully change any of those two equations, although the Reserve Bank has been doing its bit on the gold side. But given the overall balance of the monetary policy, I think gold will continue to be a favored asset class, although we might see a marginal decline. So therefore, and at the same time, increasingly it is clear that the global economy is going to go through a rough phase. Even if the fiscal cliff issue is addressed in US, there will be a marginal slowdown. Europe is not looking like getting into an aggressive growth momentum anytime soon. So that means that our exports will continue to be under pressure. And therefore, the current account deficit essentially has to be tackled from the capital flow side. And I think the good situation is that the policy makers are completely seized of it, which is why we have seen our finance minister repeatedly say that the rupee has to be made stable, the capital flows has to improve, and the whole effort on the FDI and retail is a symbol of where the policy makers' thinking is, and pleasantly it is in the right direction. Now therefore, the view on the current account deficit is that in terms of the trade gap, that is likely to continue at the current level. How seriously we will think about current account deficit every morning when we wake up will depend on how strong our cash flows are on the capital side. So if we get good FII flow, if we get good FDI inflows, then we are okay. Otherwise, our some of the people in our system also think that there is a possibility that rupee can hit 70 if those things don't improve, and you cannot discount that thought without a serious consideration. On the fiscal deficit side, I think there are serious challenges, but I am personally very hopeful now on the fiscal deficit side, because I think there is a renewed determination in the government to contain fiscal deficit, and I think we are now seeing first signs of converting that determination into tangible execution. So the conversion of the subsidy dispersal system to cash transfer is the first step. And I was watching one of the TV programs where they were running this model on a pilot basis in one of the villages in Rajasthan. So they did it for the limited purpose of giving the kerosene subsidy, and you will be surprised that in the first few months of implementation, the offtake of the subsidized kerosene fell from 84,000 liters per month in that village to 3,000 per liter. So I think there is a huge scope for cutting down on the subsidies or to make the subsidies work the way they are expected to work, and therefore improve the qualitative growth of our GDP. And that gives me a lot of hope. Challenges we all know, lower growth means lower revenue, higher overshoot on the oil subsidy or some of these things which are not in our control, and there is compulsion to continue with that, will mean that there will be challenges on fiscal deficit. But if the current momentum is carried forward, then you can expect a structural improvement in fiscal deficit. That's a very long shot, because we know that there are too many ifs and buts, and the momentum can slip any time. But for now, I think it will continue to give a positive twist to the market expectation.
Could you give a brief insight on your flagship product, Pramerica Credit Opportunities Fund?
Well, for us, the Credit Opportunity Fund has been a big success, and the success we think is in terms of two factors. One is that the investors have been very, very happy with the way the fund has performed. Our objective on the Credit Opportunity Fund is to manage the fund in a way that we are able to give a steady and regular return to the investors. Now, how do you measure what is steady and what is regular? So our objective is, as a thumb rule, to outperform, let's say, the returns given by a bank fixed deposit during that period, or by the returns given by the fixed maturity plans during that period. And how do you do that? There are changes in the market environment at all times. So essentially we basically have a mix of accrual and capital gain related securities which operate in a way so as to outperform a fixed return product like a bank fixed deposit or an FMP. There are times when the accrual gains are very high. For example, in month of March we had seen 3-month bank CDs go to as high as 11.5%, and there are times when the accrual gains are next to nothing, like right now we are getting bank CDs 1 year at 8.5% or so on. So when the accrual gains are very high, our focus is to minimize the volatility by keeping a large component of our portfolio in a high accrual kind of investment, and then balance it by having some amount of tactical allocation to duration, so that we are able to increase or add some alpha to comfortably outperform the competing products.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme related documents carefully.